It's going to take a little more finesse, really, to talk about things that actually matter. You know, talk about the things that we're facing. Don't say, boy, have you heard about our government and how it's not worried about inflation, but rather deflation? That's not, no. Instead, whoever it was that did the shopping for the food for Thanksgiving, just say this at the dinner table. Man, have you seen the price of milk? Have you seen the price of food? Have you seen, what did this cost you? Have you filled up the gas tank lately? My gosh. And whoever is filling up the gas tank, whoever's doing the shopping, will take it from there. Then you can say things like, do you know that Ben Bernanke is saying that we should be worrying about deflation? Here he is.
Rates of inflation, the constraint imposed by the zero lower bound on nominal interest rates is too tight. The short-term real interest rate is too high, given the state of the economy, and the risk of deflation is higher than desirable.
Yeah, okay. George Soros says the same thing. He says in a spooky dude voice, it is the U.S. that is not in the position of Europe's heavily indebted countries, which must pay heavy premiums over the price of which Germany can borrow. Interest rates on U.S. government bonds have been falling at near record lows, which means the financial markets anticipate deflation, not inflation, and I'm a spooky dude. All right. They don't care. And you know what? George Soros and Ben Bernanke ain't going out and doing the shopping. Mom and Grandma are. Your wife is. And inflation isn't even computed like it used to be computed. The government figured it out. The government realized that people could recognize how bad things actually were, so they changed how we calculated it. So in other words, the TV could say, there's no inflation, and you'd be going, I'm broke. How's that happening? Now they calculate inflation without adding in the price of food and energy. Oh, well, other than those going up, we're set. Now, don't start at the dinner table talking about, how to calculate inflation. Again, that's a gravy tosser. Ask, has anybody noticed the price of food or gas going up? Or how about the price of energy? If you have one of these, make sure you have this ready for the table. This is a note from Gateway Energy Services, and it's talking about how PECO in Pennsylvania is going to have a 30% increase of rates at the beginning of the year. 30%. And this company is saying, we're going to save you 10% on that. Oh, so you only have a 20% interest or a 20% rate hike. Oh, that's good. How do you do that? How do you do it? Hey, Grandma, things are getting more expensive. Ask this question. Is your Social Security check going up to cover the cost next year? The answer is no. Why? Because they changed the calculation. If costs are going up 30% on energy and food and other essentials, how does Grandma make ends meet? How does she do that? She doesn't. Let me ask you this. How do you stop inflation? Do you know? If you have all of this money and you're printing more money and pushing it out to boost the economy, get people to spend dollars, how do you get those dollars back out of the system? Because remember, inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. So how do you get those dollars back to the Fed and destroy them? You suck them up with interest rates. I want to show you a chart. 2 years ago, at the start of 2008, we had about $7.5 trillion in currency circulation around the world. Now we have $8.8 trillion in circulation, and I don't even believe that. In the 1970s, we had inflation. Ronald Reagan stopped it, but do you remember how? Most people at the table won't remember. Just ask them, do you remember trying to buy a house in the late 70s and early 80s? They'll say, oh yeah, we had 20% interest rates. That's the Fed sucking those dollars back in so they can be destroyed. If we had 20% interest rates under Jimmy Carter and we didn't have this kind of cash in the system, what kind of interest rates do we have to have now? How high do interest rates have to go to stop the inflation this time? How do you do that without killing the engine of the country? Remember the song Allentown by Billy Joel? There's nothing left but I think like a tattoo parlor to close down in Allentown. Ask the family around the dinner table what they possibly think of America having the weakest dollar in the world. When they laugh, say, no, that's according to J.P. Morgan Chase, kin with a peso. See if you can get your dinner table to agree. The city can't pay for teachers' pensions. Remember, grandma's pension here. But should grandma be paying for the teachers' pensions now? Because we can't do them. The cities can't do them. Should we pay for them? And ask them this. Propose this. Everybody over 65, if you're retired right now, you get full Social Security. If you're at 60, you work until 68. If you're 55, you work until you're 70. You're living longer. And if it's under 50, you get nothing. Let's take care of the people in the system. Look, I'm 46 years old. There's not a chance I'm going to get Social Security, and I've known it my whole life. Things are changing. It's going to take a revolution in thought and expectations. But in the end, if we have that revolution of thought, if we think outside of the box, we will have freedom. We will have freedom. And isn't that what the Pilgrims took pause to recognize? That they had freedom. And with freedom and God combined, anything can be accomplished. And that is what we give thanks for.
Well, we're living here in our little town, and they're closing all the factories down.
I want you to have a conversation at the dinner table with your friends and family, because we are headed towards a system of government that China has. And you'll hear all the leaders all around the world. China is the new model, right? China is the new model. It's great to see the sudden reverence that we have for China. They are a communist country, just like they were under Chairman Mao. They only killed 80 million people. Seriously, that's it. Only 80 million. I want to show you a picture of the people in communist China, how wonderful life was under Mao. See these guys? These weren't prisoners, by the way. These weren't prisoners. These are just workers. Chairman Mao thought, this guy, let's just call him 119. They just need numbers, because that's really all people are, numbers. China is the same country today, except they don't call it communism anymore. They call it state capitalism. Well, are they capitalist? Well, yes. They're not communists, really, because what is communism? Communism is state-controlled, state-owned, state-run. Nobody owns anything. So that's not communism, because now they let people make money. They let people own things, all right? But not entirely. So it's not communism. Look it up in the dictionary. What is the step between communism and capitalism? It's socialism. So it's a socialist country, right? Now state capitalism. It's capital S, state capitalism, which is equal to the nation. It's not local. It will be one world government. State capitalism. It's actually National Socialism. Gee, who had National Socialism? Who had that? Hey, that's right. That's the government setting the pace of the economy, using private companies to be the engine. Who had this system? That's right. National Socialism. Somebody had it. We should look that up. You'd have privately owned companies. You just have to do what the state says. In China, it's completely different, because they have privately owned companies who have to do what the state says. Well, I know we wouldn't take National Socialism because that was Germany. Germany had this. That's National Socialism is the Nazi Party. So if we wouldn't go for national, let's just capitalize the S, and that way we don't freak anybody out, because we will say that, no, it's not National Socialism, it's state. And everybody's freaked out by communism, and it's not communism, because you still get to own things. You just have to do what the state says. So let's call it capitalism, when actually it's National Socialism. Let's call it state capitalism. And the world will feel so much better. Do you understand? This is what progressives do. They just changed the words. They changed the meaning. It's National Socialism. It's what Hitler said could never be defeated. What are you hearing from people? You will never beat China. Why? Because they just steal the technology, they railroad anybody, and they'll just kill anybody who stands in their way. China just arrested somebody from tweeting. I'm sorry, for retweeting. No trial. The person responsible for the tweet, which was satirical, mocked youth demonstrators who smashed Japanese products in protest with a dispute with Japan. She disappeared on her wedding day. That was October 27th. This week, people finally found out where she was. She was detained. A year of re-education through labor. Oh, that's very progressive of them. There, she's going to make some progress, right? I wonder if she has a number yet. This is supposedly the country that is the new world leader, the model that everyone will follow. If you think the earth has a temperature like Al Gore does, do you really believe China is going to try to cut back on emissions for the good of the planet? They're tossing people into camps over tweets. Are they going to stand up for freedom in the world? National socialism? Or state capitalism? I'm sorry, I don't play that. Even though I am an alcoholic and I am fluent in bull crap, I'm tired of talking it. I'm tired of speaking that language. Let's call a spade a spade. And what happens when they rule the world and there is no strong defense against it, where there is no one to stand against state capitalism? What Ronald Reagan said all those decades ago against the last state capitalists that were communist at the time still applies today. Watch this.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Amen. Back in a minute.